Hello and welcome to the Winners Find a Way show. I am your host, Trent Clark, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, having spoken in 17 countries. I am an author of Leading Winning Teams, and I am a growth coach. I help companies scale 2x, 10x, love the growth model, and love to build leaders and winners. And most people know me because I spent over 13 years in professional baseball coaching and 3 World Series, building more winners. And I'm telling you today on Winners Find a Way, I am super excited to welcome my good friend, Malik Muhammad. What's up, Malik?
Hey, my friend. Hey, it's so good to be here. Thank you.
It's so good to have you. Malik is part of the Entrepreneur Organization. He has spoke all over that world and in multiple countries. And man, you've been out there a long time on leadership. So I'm super excited to talk about leadership today because I did a rant earlier about the challenges that we're having today in youth leadership and leading teams, and I'm challenged by how we're going to do something different. So good. Let's meet Malik Muhammad, who is a university grad from Franklin Marshall and that massive college over there in Lancaster, PA. What is that? What is that, about 1,800? How big is that?
You know what, man? So when I attended, it was 1,800, and I think now it's 2,400. So it's grown by 600 students, and it's actually known right now as the most expensive private college in the United States. I don't know if we should be proud of that. So
yeah. Well, you met your beautiful wife there.
Yes,
and
indeed.
And you did a great presentation in front of myself and some colleagues in the Entrepreneurs Organization, some leaders, and he showed his family in his beautiful 2 children. And I'm going to just tell you straight out, Malik, you are a good looking man, but you have outkicked your coverage. I am just telling you, it is wow. I mean, your wife is lovely. You have this beautiful family now, 30 and 25.
That's right.
Started pretty young because you started a family while you were still in Franklin Marshall University.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So my wife and I met first day of college, and kind of locked in. I was locked in. She was sort of, but after a year, I wore her down. We started dating, and my one of my favorite rappers, Common, he says it doesn't take all day to recognize the sunshine. So she got pregnant, we got married, and we graduated walking together and our daughter across the stage. So it was pretty amazing. So 30 years ago, man, 31 actually. So 31 years ago. So
yeah. Wow. That, how fast did that go, by the way? Right?
Oh my gosh.
Like where did it go? Yeah. I love that. Now you were, in addition to all this leader development, your consulting work, you were an author of the 3 books that, come to mind here, or your third's coming here. The first one is the Restorative Journey.
Yeah. The Restorative Journey. Yep. And
yes. Yep. And then your second one is
We Can Save Our Boys of Color, and sort of taking some of my heart's work, working with Black and brown boys, and really trying to save their very life by applying some leadership principles to that good work. Yeah.
I love that. And then of course your new one, being that one, to me, being the leader we need, is right now, I mean, man, now more than ever, right? Like I find this to be forefront of the time where I felt like when we were kids, there was a lot of leaders to look up to. I felt like, and maybe we didn't have all the social dirt on them, that now it seems to come out about everybody, right?
Yeah.
And so, but it's a time of leadership where I think we're vexed, and I felt like we grew up in a country. I'm 55 now, where when we were kids, like people had their differences on who they thought should lead, but when that leader was chosen, I felt like people supported the leader. There was unity and support. and that has slowly, gradually lost our way in supporting leadership.
Yeah.
And I don't know how it happened. I don't know what happened, but I think it's a huge challenge now. It just
Yeah.
feels very divided. Do you feel that?
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think that we are divided, and even if the lines of division and the distance that we had between folks, it hasn't changed radically. I think it's more pronounced, and it's certainly louder, right? And so and I think folks are filling the gaps with their own megaphones in those spaces of being loud, right? And so not necessarily finding the opportunities for us to understand each other through core values, but I think that we end up leaning more on elevating practices to the level of principles. And everyone knows that you cannot compromise on principles. Any compromising of principles is an abandonment of it, right? And
Yeah.
and and I think about the 70s and 80s and 90s when I was growing up, and we were spending time as young people. I still think there were stark political differences and different understandings of each other. But what our leaders had, which was interesting, was, I mean, one, people were good followers, right? Which is a form of leadership, right? So as you're saying, sort of like, hey, once a leader is determined, let's get behind that person. But then I think leaders also carried a level of moral authority that would allow you to be a good follower, right? And what happens now in the absence of that moral authority, then we hold on to leaders, like we hold on to religions, like we hold on to sports teams. Regardless of what they do wrong or right, we support them, right?
Yeah.
And
I just
right,
have the T-shirt and I'm wearing it.
there it is. There it
Yeah,
is. Yeah. And whether the call was good or bad, I'm gonna fight for my team, right? And it becomes, and we do that. It's the devolution, right, of religion and leadership, and we're not asking our leaders to do very much at all. And that's what I think I'm really interested in writing about, thinking about, talking about.
Yeah, me too. I think it's a real challenge, and one of the things I want people to know is what most people don't know about you. You're this astute scholar. You speak on leadership. You're very well thought, very well spoken about leadership, and you've got a great message, which we're going to talk about. Yet you're a comic book guy, man. Like this is what most people don't know. It's like, hey, I do not think you're not a small dude, Malik. If that's
no,
fair,
not at all, man. No.
Yeah, you can fill a stage, and I love that about you. And so you come in, you see this large person, big personality, strong. This is not where I'm thinking, hey man, he's got an old locker of Spider-Man comics back at the den,
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, I mean, I've been a comic book lover since I could open a comic book, right? And it's certainly what helped me early on to develop a love of reading. That and Sister Francis, who my first grade teacher, she took my face in her hands and she asked me if I loved to read, and I said no, and she said, well, if you don't learn to read and love it, I'm going to tell God on you. And it freaked me the heck out, man. It just freaked me out. And so then became my love with comics, which allowed me to develop a love of reading. But really, it was just a stretch of the imagination. My early childhood was pretty challenging, and so if I could escape into the world of fantasy, I could live and reside there, regardless of the turmoil and everything else around me. So it has still remained that for me. I've got 2 comic book stores that I go to frequently, and they know me like Norm from Cheers, like Malik, So
yeah. That's so great. First of all, I love it. And speaking of Norm from Cheers, right? I love the leadership side of Ted Lasso. Have you watched Ted Lasso at all?
Oh,
there's this leadership side, right? That people I think are missing on this leader event. And so Jason Sudeikis plays Ted Lasso, of course. And Jason Sudeikis' uncle is George Wendt, Norm from Cheers. So that's how I went there, right?
Oh,
I know a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people do not know that. So that's how Uncle George, that's how he may have introduced
Oh my
himself to the
goodness.
business, you know.
Oh wow.
That's, you
Wow.
know, and can you imagine us being kids and like, oh, I don't know if you know or not, Norm, that's my uncle.
That's pretty dope. That's pretty
That's
dope,
very cool,
man.
right?
It was literally last night. I put on a YouTube clip of Ted Lasso doing the Allen Iverson speech about practice
Yeah, yeah,
and how he flipped it. It was so good. I just
right.
had an urge to see it, and I literally just watched that clip last night.
Yeah.
No lie. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, it's an iconic thing in our culture of
Yeah.
Allen Iverson going practice. Like, what the
Yeah.
heck? And I
Yeah.
want to get into this culture thing a little bit because, you know, we talk about, you know, we can save our boys of color. I really want to talk about that because one of the things that I've learned about you, just knowing you a short time, Malik, is that you really, really appreciate and value the poetry of rap. And I've seen you use it in a
Yeah.
number of different instances. And I am I'm a weight guy, right? I was a strength coach for athletes forever. And so I have spent so much time in a weight room. Like there's
Oh yeah.
not a lot of music I haven't heard. And and I really have a super amount of respect for the
Mm,
beat and the creation of this whole genre of music. And, you know, I'm a Michigan kid. So we
yeah.
already saw this happen with Motown. Like we
That's
saw this
right. That's
happen
right.
years ago. There was a genre that came up. And if you ever go to the Motown Museum in Detroit, it is a
Absolutely.
can't miss, right? Like you've
That's
got to
right.
do this, right? And so now we've got this new genre. And the thing that I'm so alarmed by, and it's not just that genre because a bunch of it got affected, grunge and everything else, was the
Yep.
indoctrination of the streaming music over the guided, you know, radio band of approved lyrics and things
Yeah.
that went in. Because
Yeah.
when you and I were children, we didn't hear music. It had to be cut down to 305, as Billy Joel
That's
said,
right.
right? You cut
That's
it
right.
down to 305 because it's got to make the radio and it's got to be approved. And now we have this streaming and any words go. And I think
That's right.
words
That's right.
matter.
Yeah.
And this is a massive concern for me. I have, having been involved with professional athletics most of my life, is like there's a lot of culture. There's a lot of
Yeah.
different cultures that come in. And obviously the African American culture is a big one, but the Latin American culture, everybody.
Yep.
And the words that are being come out and spoken in a digitally remastered, non-compliant way, I
Yeah.
would never want my kids to listen to, even though there's a bunch of messages that I'd love to
Oh, for
grab a
sure. For
piece.
sure.
I'd love to grab that piece. And I'm like, ah, but you can't listen to that. That is
Yeah.
not for you at this age. And
Yeah.
that alarms me because I think words matter. I think what we're subjected to matter. I think the impact of a young family who's blaring this music with 3 small children in the back. I'm like, what are we thinking? What are
Yeah.
we thinking? Putting some of these imagery of words, because it's imagery of words, right? It's your fantasy, right
Yes.
back to your comic book.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
imagery of our fantasy into young people's minds, and it's absolutely alarming to me. Tell me what you've
Yeah.
learned. Tell me what you've learned there.
Yeah. So I mean, I think with hip hop music, right? Whether we call it rap or hip hop, it was birthed in the labor pains of protest and party, right?
Okay.
Like both of those, right? Like if we
Yeah.
look 1972, right? This new thing is stepping on the scenes in the parks of the Bronx, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes this vehicle for young, particularly young Black males, to be able to articulate both the pain and the pleasure of their existence.
Did it all start though like Rapper's Delight? And did it start with the fun of humanity and go dark, or was it always challenging?
So no, I mean, I think it was both birthed in protest and party, and so as it began to mature, right, and if we look about protest and party, both of them have an element of rebellion,
Yes.
right. The
Yep.
best parties have a little edge on them, right, and protest by
Right.
definition, right, resisting against
Yes.
systems, right, have an edge, and so therefore it's going to if you're birthed in that culture, it's going to embrace the edgy language,
Yep.
embrace the edgy aspects of community and culture. and some of that became baked in. Now, there have always been artists that have been able to find ways that can communicate similar messages, same messages, without using some language that might offend, right?
Yeah.
But what I think about though is the evolution of language and the acceptance, right? We use words in popular culture now that would never have been used, right? In
No, no,
100
no,
years ago,
no.
right?
I know,
200 years
man.
ago, right?
Yeah.
And then also some of those words that were used 200 years ago would sound hilarious to our ears
Yeah.
nowadays, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I think though is as we consider the the consumption of whatever culture, right? And cultural aspects, um, do they reflect conditions that were
Mhm.
birthed under that, right?
Sure.
So what language do we use that isn't profane to describe profane conditions of oppression,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so the language itself does, right? Now,
Well,
there are
let's,
there are plenty of hip hop artists that didn't grow up in those profane conditions, and they're using language because
yeah,
it's it's
it's
shock value and everything
acceptable.
else,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Um, but I do think it's easy to condemn the language, but the conditions in which produced the profanity of condition, the
Yeah.
profanity of that life and experiences that one is are trying to articulate, right? Um, and I don't want my 3-year-old, right? I don't want my students, right, who attend schools that I own, to necessarily repeat back. And so, therefore, how do we code switch? How do we find the right language in the gym, right? Pumping iron, right? I don't
Yeah.
need Barry Manilow, right? I need, right?
And love Barry, but this
Yeah,
isn't the time,
this
right?
is Copacabana isn't going to do it for me, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
need
yeah.
I need Lose Yourself by
Yeah.
Eminem, right? I
And and
need
and,
some
and
Public
either's
Enemy.
Barry White. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like, not now.
exactly.
I do need
Exactly.
you. I do need you later, but not right now.
That's exactly right. Exactly
Right?
right. So finding the right place and space, right, for that which we need. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
it's interesting as you say that, because and I just had this recent experience of my 14-year-old reading The Scarlet Letter, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and this is a moment, right? This is a
Yeah.
moment of trespass. It's a moment of and the language is, holy goodness, man. I mean, I needed a thesaurus to go through this book with
Oh
him.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, holy cow, man, this
Yeah.
is this is old English scripture.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he's like going, Dad, I'm dialing in about 4 of 5 words. Every fifth word, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah, well, be thankful it's only a 117-page book, bro. And not like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not War and Peace written like this, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Well, I mean,
this is,
it's fascinating, man. So I remember as a I've always loved books, right? So I'm a big book guy and literature guy, but I remember being given Catcher in the Rye,
yeah.
right? And it was the first book that I read, approved by school before it got banned, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Approved by school where it had a young person cursing in it, and I was like,
yeah.
whoa, this is it, right? And then I remember in a ninth grade general education literature class, we were reading Julius Caesar, and it was oppressive to read, man. And the school that I attended at the time had a hodgepodge of different people, and no one was getting it. And then when I sat down with my teacher, she gave me, it felt like a codex, like the Batman decoder ring.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I have no idea, but all of a sudden I could make sense of that which Shakespeare was trying to write in
Yeah.
Julius Caesar. And it just blew my mind, man. I've lost the Codex ring. I've lost the Batman decoder ring
Yeah.
since, man.
Yeah.
I don't have Shakespeare on my shelf now, but
Yeah.
but when we can access materials from time and cultures different than our own, it feels like this huge expansion, man. So
I love that. As a kid, I'm a Midwest kid, and over in a town called Stratford, Ontario,
hmm.
is the Shakespearean Festival, and it
uh,
is a Shakespearean town. Like, the town is literally built up on Shakespeare. So,
oh wow.
as a school, we would drive over. This is across the border, everything else,
Yeah.
into a new country, right? Which was basically show an ID back then. Like,
Yeah.
I don't even know if we showed ID. It was like, it was a different era, right?
Yep.
And we went up there, and then all of a sudden, kind of similar, like, you couldn't decode it. But for me, being a theater arts guy,
Ah,
When they played it all out on the stage, I'm like, I know exactly what's going on. Like
yeah,
very, very similar to you and I going to the opera in Italy and going, we know exactly what the story is, but we don't speak a lick of Italian.
yeah,
It's just
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
and you're like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
he's gonna kill her.
Yeah,
And you know what's about to go down, and you're like,
absolutely,
this
absolutely.
is crazy. And so,
Well,
that art transcends language sometimes,
it
right?
it does, and the context is so powerful, right? So one of one of my favorite performances is Luciano Pavarotti, one of the
Yeah,
greatest
yeah,
opera singers
sure.
everywhere or anywhere, right? On stage with James Brown, singing A
Mm.
Man's World as a duet. Man, that will change your life. I
I'm u-
encourage everyone to YouTube that. That is so dope.
I'm going to put that link in the notes, everybody. That
Yeah,
link will be in the notes. It's down there, so check it
yeah,
out. And I'll be YouTubing that personally tonight because that just sounds like this is where cultures unite and cross
yeah,
over. And listen, people know tragedy, people know heartache, they know trespassing, they
yeah,
also know joy, they also know family, they know all these things. And I think this is something I hope you will agree with me on, because I know you have a thick passport. When I tell a lot of Americans who complain about things that are going on, and I'm like, hey, listen, man, like you really need to thicken up your passport and go find out, because when I'm gone internationally for more than 10 days, it feels special when I land back on US
mm,
soil,
mm,
knowing this is what I know and I can expect. And I know that we have some virtues here that are unwilling to change. I believe they're unwilling to change. Like there's certain things. And this is also where I've just been to a place where people literally will give up their firstborn to have the create the value for the other four.
mm,
Very similar to what we saw with the Greek Freak, which is highlighted in a movie called Rise by
mhm.
Disney, where here's his mom and dad escaping this oppressive African nation to go to Greece and live as illegal immigrants because their kids are safe.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and they have four more who become all NBA level players.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and he doesn't see, literally, he doesn't see his oldest brother, until he's 20 years old and a Milwaukee Buck.
mm,
I mean, I
mm,
can't, I can't,
mm.
I can't even fathom that, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
trying to say, like, oh, I could empathize with that. I can't. I don't even understand having two brothers and a sister, having 5 children of my own. I can't imagine my children going, hey, listen, one day you're gonna get a chance to meet your brother or your sister.
yeah,
Like, what,
yeah,
what do you mean one day? Like,
yeah,
what are we talking about?
yeah.
Like next week? No, no, like, down the road. Maybe
Mhm.
when we're in our 20s. And it's still a maybe, by the way.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, listen. What absolutely agree with is that this Kenyan proverb that is something to the effect of traveling is learning,
Mm.
right? That travel opens the mind and the spirit, and I. So my experience is a little bit different in that I find it absurd and really disconcerting when there's folks in this country, in the United States, who will say things with such conviction, like America's the greatest country,
Yeah.
right? And have never traveled anywhere, like
Yeah. Yeah.
anywhere, right?
Anyway, they have
And
no
so
idea.
no idea, right?
Yeah.
And then
What would you
what
compare it to?
what
Like, what are you
exactly.
comparing it to? Yeah.
Exactly, right. And then well, they'll say things like, well, look at all the people that are coming here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, true, but many of those folks would be perfectly happy in their own environment if but for, right,
Mm.
the legacies of colonialism and slavery and neocolonialism, imperialism, all of that stuff. But then also what is really fascinating is that the more you travel, the more you find people that have no interest in coming to the United States, and they're
No.
perfectly. And what's
For a
really
visit.
interesting,
For a
it,
visit. It would be nice.
right, right. But
Yeah.
recently, this year, I've been in Mumbai, India, and just came back from Jakarta and Indonesia. And here's what's really fascinating is that Mumbai is about 30 million people in the city, right?
Yeah.
And that's registered citizens, right? 30
Yeah.
million people, right? New York City is about 9 million, most populated city in the United States, I believe, right? Mumbai is 3 times the size plus, and
Yeah.
no one in the United States thinks of Mumbai,
Yeah.
right? Like it's not even on our radar, but
Yeah.
Mumbai is 3 times the size. Never mind Mexico City, and then
Shanghai.
Jakarta. Yeah, exactly. Jakarta
Yeah.
is 12 million in the day and 8 million at night, larger by 30% than the largest, most populated city in the United States. And we don't even think about Jakarta, which
Yeah.
is fascinating to me. So I think
Mm.
the smallness of our minds as human beings, and not just in the United States, but elsewhere, doesn't allow us to understand how big and wide the world is, and that we, each one of us as individuals, are just a small part of it, right? And there's so much learning to be done, and
Yeah.
and understanding, and it's just really fascinating.
Well, I think also, what's great is the humanity of it, right? Like,
Yeah,
what we do find is that we all bleed the same. Like, that's going to happen everywhere. Like, family's important to everybody. People have a higher power, and they lean to that. Something
that's right.
typically is where they're going to find on that, and they realize this isn't just happened, right? Like,
That's
there's
right.
just too much going on. It just happened. Whoops!
That's
Like, look at
exactly
that.
right.
Someone's in a beaker making a mix. Like, no, they're not. Like,
Yeah,
this is a crazy deal. Like, and
that's
and
right.
and and I think anyone, and because we all do this worldwide, the miracle of childbirth and watching a human develop
Oh,
is almost the miracle that it can't just be us, right? Like,
yeah,
because you
yeah,
watch it, and you watch it every day, and you watch your children do things, and you just go, where
yeah,
did they get that?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
What is this? And
yeah,
it's mind blowing. And I think that when we realize that here we go back to your principles, right? The human principles are the same. We want
that's
good
right.
for our families. We want to be able to worship and yield to that higher power, whatever that is. And we want to be able to have safety and security, and we want to be able to interact with other humans in a very ethical, good way without
Yeah,
being threatened, or hurt. And we want good for our children, and
yeah,
we want it better than we had it,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and that doesn't matter. It will not matter what piece of dirt you're on in the world. Those principles aren't changing.
That you're absolutely right, and friend of mine who's also an entrepreneur, Chuck Bender, and Chuck and I
Oh
see the
yeah,
world
Seattle.
differently,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
and 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 we talk about that a lot, but there's a lot of I think honor, respect between us, and what Chuck often reminds us, right, of is the calibration to some core values that we all hold, right? That and you've named some of those, Trent, right?
yeah.
This wanting the best for family, right? Being willing to sacrifice, right? Leading a life that has honor and passion and purpose and all of that, right? And the part of that I think we don't always do well, right, is and being willing to defend that for and with others, right?
Mm,
And that when we see those things in conflict, that we're willing to raise our voice and sometimes our hands, right, to defend that in others, and we I think we honor and acknowledge that we want those, but there is the false attributional of not seeing others as being worthy of having the same thing, right? And I think
mm.
that's flaw in leadership. Leaders are not just responsible for leading your group, but ultimately leading in a way that honors humanity around the world. So
I
yeah,
love that. Let's talk a little bit about that, because
yeah,
you are. I mean, I think most people are doing their best, right? I believe in people. I believe that
me
people
too.
want something better, and I also believe and have seen personally in myself, right, Malik? Like, it's easy to drift away from what I really want and what's
Mm,
really important, and I don't go running away from it. I've never run away from it. But it's that old adage, like, hey, you and I get on the plane in Los Angeles and we're going to New York, and that pilot is one tick off. Well, we
yeah,
land in DC, right? Like we're like, wait a minute, man. Malik and I got to present tonight in Manhattan. I don't know what we're doing in DC, but we're a
that's
long
right.
way now away from where we're supposed to be. And like, this is not a quick fix, right?
That's right.
And and that happened in just 5 short hours.
That's right.
5 short hours, we ended up, a solid 2.5 hours by car to where we're going to need to be. And so there's a bunch of challenge in that, right? And so, and that's all it is, 1 degree, right? 1 degree off. And so I think that's, I think that's probably my next book, Malik, is Catch My Drift. Because
Catch My Drift. That's good, man.
Because I have good people around me. I have Malik Muhammad who goes, "Hey Trent, this doesn't sound like you. This sounds a little off. I mean, I see you're upset about this. Walk me through it, because the actions you're taking based on some of your emotion might not be aligned with your principle."
There it is. There it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. What do you mean? No, I'm fine. Just because I yelled at the cashier right now, like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not fine. Like, you're exactly right. I am going away from my principle, and I'm not thinking this is what I want to do or what I choose to do. It's like literally these emotions or whatever have you that's got me off the path. I've drifted. And if we don't, and this is where I think the power of like the entrepreneurs organization, where you have people around you who go, hey man, I'm going to need a TO, Malik. This just doesn't sound like you. And tough love is part of my world, right? Because I want what's best for you. And if I didn't tell you, it would mean I don't care for you.
Yeah. So I mean, Trent, you're exactly articulating what I'm finding myself talking about and have been talking about for, over a decade or so. And it's that formula for change that I offer. And that is connection plus challenge equals change. Right. And what you're describing is so well is, in Catch My Drift, one is able to catch your drift, is able to recognize that you are off purpose, right? And not following the true north, because I know you, right? So I know what your drift is, right? And what the real you is. And I'm willing to let you know that this is not it, right? That you're not in right standing with yourself or in the community, right? And so that's where the connection and the challenge and for me, we invite in, we encourage folks to chin check us, right? That's what I call it. Every once in a while, I need to get chin checked, right? So people can chin check me, right? Right?
If you've never been chin checked before, like like what that means. Like,
exactly, you know exactly what that means.
In the world of pro sports and competitiveness, like when you get chin checked by a person who's 6'4", 260, you're gonna know. You're gonna know.
There it is. There it is, right?
Yeah.
And when you pick yourself off the ground, right, from being chin checked, right, right.
Yeah.
If you have deep and powerful relationship with that person, then you smile and be like, you got me, man. Woo, you got me, right? And if you don't, right, then now it becomes another level of problem, right? And that's where the connection precedes the challenge. The chin check is invited because we have connection. You love me. I love you. We care enough about each other. But in the absence of that, then now we're adversaries. You just got me with a good one. Yeah.
And this is the culture of the NHL. Like, this is what people don't understand. Like, oh, they fight. Like, listen, they fight in practice, because there's not just an enforcer to protect our number one. Our enforcer also lets Trent know a little chin check in practice is what goes down when going, well, listen, man, just pass me the buck. I'm going to get 2 goals, and I don't need to come to team offense meeting, and I don't need to do this. And like, hey, man, we're going to give Trent a little chin check and know, like, if he's going to be part of the team, he's going to be part of the team. Now,
that's right.
And that connection comes in, like, get smoked in practice, take you for the beer with the follow-up, which is, hey, man, like, I just had to let you know you're going to make all the meetings. Like, not okay to take a me, I attitude on this team, because that's not team. That's Trent and team. And you're getting outside the circle. I just had to make sure we brought you back in the circle.
That's exactly right, man. And what I learned on the dojo mat years ago, my sensei said, Malik, we train hard with our friends so that our enemies can't hurt us. Right. And then a couple years ago, I was thinking about maybe doing rugby, and I had no business thinking about rugby, man. But I was thinking about it. And when I looked on the local website for a local men's team, it was really funny. They showed where they practice, where they do the pitch, and then where they go to the pub. So the practice, the pitch, and the pub. And essentially all 3 of those held the same level of significance for this club, right? Because the practice is where we battle it out internally. The pitch is where we battle it out externally, right? And the pub is where we come together to connect. And I was like, that's it right there. That's connection plus challenge equals change. Yeah.
I think that's, I I could spend probably a half a day just sitting watching the YouTubes of the All Blacks in New Zealand and
Oh
the
man.
whole and I just went through this, by the way. I went through another little cultural event over the weekend. I went down to see Texas A&M, and I mean, they have got ritual. They have got all these things like to be a part of who we
That's right.
are. This
That's right.
is what's required of you, and it's like, let's do midnight yell. You have to practice to be a participant in the football stadium with 80,000 people the next day.
That's
And I'm
exactly
like,
right.
well, like, don't come and not know. Like, you're
That's
supposed
right.
to come and be a faithful follower, and this is how we do things. And you're going to stick out if you don't know how to do things the A&M way.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we're not going to apologize for it. Like, this
Yeah.
is who we are and your expectations. And I went by, I did a video over it when I was there Saturday morning. I went by an alumni center, and they had these stone walls and these great quotes about character and leadership and what it means to serve others, all by their alumni. And I'm like, hey man, these people just didn't drink the Kool-Aid. They are taking an action on connect plus
That's
challenge equals change. They are, and I love this word because, and Malik and I have talked about this before, and I want to get your input. You know, every organization that I work with, I eliminate the word problem. They're not allowed to use the word because it inspires nobody, is my finding. Like, we are going to go into growth phase, and we are going to need unity towards a bigger goal. And there are going to be lots of challenges. And I could just remember coaches when I was a kid. Oh, well, we got a big problem. The shoulders fall, the head goes down. And then I watched our whole team, shoulders go down, head go down. And I'm like, man, if I want, and then I watched Nick Saban walk in and go, all right, boys, here's our challenge this week with Ohio State. Who's up for it? And every kid in the room leans on the front of his seat and says, Coach, I'm ready. Like, this is who I need around me. Like, not the, oh, that sounds hard. Where's the exit? You know, like, wait a minute. Yeah, you need to get out. You need to get out. So, like, I have replaced that word so people know and challenges we do together. And you know, and this is my benefit of having a Malik Muhammad in my life. This is my blessing, right? Is I go, oh man, I got a major challenge. I bet I could call Malik Muhammad. And instantly into action, into remedy, into resolution, into discussion on how we could tackle that challenge and what are potential solutions. Not, oh, that challenge sounds really hard, Trent. Good luck with it. See you later. Whack. That's not how it happens.
Yeah, you know, and I love your reframe of problem and challenge. I mean, that speaks to me a lot as well, right? And when we think about problem, we think about solving it, right? Like, we get into our head, right? And let's come up with solutions to solve the problem. When we think about challenge, we think about facing a challenge and overcoming a challenge, right?
Yes.
And often we as men, I think in men culture, we label something as problem, go into fix mode, but we haven't faced it nearly enough, right? We haven't gotten vulnerable enough. And this is what I think, you know, the women in our lives are often inviting us to do is like you got to sit, pause before you go to fix and face and get vulnerable with this thing that's in front of us, right? And then we can begin to, and so the muscle here is not necessarily the brain fixing a problem, right? Trying to, you know, solve a problem, but it's often the heart and character that we would need, right? You know, because we're not gonna think our way out of this particular issue, but we are going to have to dig deep into the hearts, into our honor, and these other things, these character pieces, right, to get through this particular issue and this challenge. So I really love that reframe, man. That's pretty good. And you mentioned the All Blacks and Texas A&M. By the way, you know, one of my dreams, man, is to learn how to do the haka in New Zealand by the Maori, right? So you know, if I shave my mustache, I might look like Samoan and Polynesian anyway, right? But to learn how to do the haka, man, that's on my list. So I need to make that happen at some point.
I love that. I love that. When you do that, make sure you get that recording because I will get that into my network. All right.
No doubt, man. No doubt. So, but when you think about, you mentioned Texas A&M and you know, what you're really describing for me is this sense of belonging. Yes. Right? Like, how do we how do we create, curate, craft, sense, and design this idea of belonging? And this is in the upcoming book, Being the Leader We Need. Is I'm really attracted to cultural terms in general, specifically African terms. And so there's a Southern African one called Ubuntu. And it's translated a couple of different ways, with the translation that I like is, I am because we are. I am because we are. And Ubuntu really is about this sense of belonging, that we are each other's business, like the writer Gwendolyn Brooks said, right? That we are each other's business. And it's about the architecture and design of belonging. And what I've been really thinking with, playing with, and chewing on a little bit is that there's a design principles, that there's an architecture of what we might think of as 4 R's of Ubuntu, 4 R's of belonging. And the first one is exactly what you said, and that's rituals. That we need moments and practices that mark what matters, that help to make meaning really visible. And that could be the ritual of you get your uniform now after putting in the work, right? Or it could be the ritual of a leader saying, hey, we have a Monday stand-up circle of dedication, right? And that's every Monday, like clockwork. And if I'm not here, it still goes on, because what we're doing is creating memory in motion, right? And rituals are how we're able to tap into those who came before us and provide that also to those who will come after us, right? So rituals is kind of how we start that first R. And the second R is roles. That's what we need in spaces that have this really powerful sense of belonging. People know where they belong in the scheme of things. That they've got the clarity as kindness, which I attribute to my daughter Ngozi, saying clarity is kindness. She says that it was Brene Brown, but I like to quote my daughter on that one. So clarity is kindness. But that also means that ambiguity is unkindness, right? That when we as leaders don't create clarity, right? That it's really being unkind, and that when everyone knows where they belong and where they matter, then competition becomes collaboration, right? And so roles are, I think, really powerful. And then the third R is rhythms. And rhythms is really about how does the culture sway in a way that brings to life oscillation. Everything in nature has oscillation, right? There's seasons for everything. And as leaders, I think we've got to articulate the right rhythm and the right cadence, right? That culture it feels like a cadence before it's a statement. And what this means is we've got to articulate predictable beats, right? That there's moments of silence, that there's meetings, there's check-ins, there's retreats, and all of that sort of builds a compound interest and trust. I know what's going to come next because, there's a flow and there's a rhythm. And that's what brings, I think, leadership and culture alive, that there's a rhythm to it, And then the last R for me is repair. That winning teams, as you describe, and spaces of belonging have processes to work through harm. The belonging is not the absence of harm, but it's the presence of repair. And that we don't throw each other away. That when you are a part of this family, a part of this team, a part of this community, that we don't abandon you, and that we can survive the truth. And when we have teams that can survive the truth, then they'll tell it, right? And when we have spaces where we don't believe that we can survive the truth, we don't tell the truth, right? So those 4 R's: rituals, roles, rhythms, and repair, for me is exactly what you're describing at Texas A&M and in these amazing spaces where leaders are doing the thing.
I love it. I love it. Let's talk quickly about, we talk about this challenge and we talk about how we do that, right? In our show, winners find a way. And I love the quote from the 4 disciplines of execution, right? Winners, when shown data that they're losing, find a way to win. Malik, talk to me a little bit about a time where you were in this, where someone had to come alongside you maybe, or you had to get real about connect, challenge, and change, and then kind of looking through this about what happened and what could have been different and how it turned out.
Yeah, man, I love that. Winners find a way. So I mean, I've got lots of them on a personal level, right? So my life has been one of sort of this continuous learning, relearning, all of that of who I am and what I'm going to be about. Organizationally as well, I've got a bunch of them, but I think about one that comes to mind is, about 20 years ago, a little less, I was given the opportunity to take over a failing school. It was an alternative school here in Delaware. And I committed career suicide. I stopped running a college to go and take over this school. And no one understood why I would possibly do that, leave this cushy job as a 30-year-old to go and do this. But it was really because I needed a challenge and I wanted to be more in line with my purpose. But it was a failing school, so much so that after I took the position, the head of the board came to me and he was like, Malik, you've got 6 months. Otherwise, we're going to shut this school down. And I kind of looked at him and my first thing was, I wish you told me that before I took the position, right?
Yeah. Can I get Joe Clark on the line here?
Exactly, right? Exactly. And then the next thing I was thinking is, all right, well, how am I going to tell this to my wife, right? And we had 10, 15 years in, so I knew she wasn't going anywhere, and this was going to be just another chapter. And so I needed to get about the work of doing that because heretofore people had failed at it. Right? They had put leaders in place and they had failed at it. Right. And so what was I going to need to dig into? And so I said that, connection plus challenge equals change, and connection is the first. I didn't dig into connection first. I went right to challenge. Right. And what that looked like was there were people that were in place that were not the right fit. They were not the team that was going to get us to overcome what we needed to overcome. And so I needed to, what my friend said, give them back to the community, right? And so I terminated 25% of our staff in one day. And as much as I can look back on that and say it was the right decision, it was a tough decision and not one of the days I'm most proud of, right? Because while I cut fat in order to win, I also didn't pay attention to the reverberation of the impact on the community itself, right? While it was necessary, there was also a cost that came with it. Yep. And so I had established leading with that challenge, but I didn't have the connection. And so, but things started to turn around and I was backfilling the connection. And 6 months went by, we were fine and better than fine. In 2 years, we would be able to expand that one school into 3. And eventually really make some positive impact in young people's lives. But what I communicated to the team was, we will not fail because the price is too high to pay. Failing here means failing young people that need us the most. And too many people have failed them. So we will not fail. We will make a way. And so exactly, man.
I love that, man. That's right out of a Joe Clark, man. Like, and now they call me Batman. Like, I love it. Like, you got to just take a stand. And there's, and I think there's a lot of things that have really come out of this world and this life with no backup plan. Like, this is like, failure is not an option. Like, well, what's plan B? There is no plan B. Like, we either got to get to A and that's it, man. Like, and I think there's some, because that's the ultimate find a way to win. Because if you don't have alternative options, then you got to find a way, right? And I've been blessed to surround myself, right? The entrepreneurs, and this is the community, the athletes. Like, you find a way to win, or we find someone who can. And I really want to say this. You gently put this into like, hey, we put them back into the community. What I want to really reverberate what Malik said was, it doesn't make these people bad. It doesn't make these people incorrect. All it means is that there's a challenge that needed to be. These may not be the people right now, and they may be the people now today where they're sitting today. But at that moment, they weren't. They had other gifts, they had other skills, and this was not the place for them to be and give their best and have their best value. And I have released a lot of people to go into where I feel like God's given you all this gift and talent, and maybe this is the space you need to go, because what you did learn was this isn't that space, and that's okay. Like, that doesn't make you less of a person because you got fired from a role. Like, that's right. There's another role out there for you, and the determinant of, like you talked about, purpose. Get aligned with that, with your gifts that you've been bestowed on, because everybody has them. everybody has been given things that, very few people can do. They're in a very small percentage, and everyone has that ability in something. And try to align that with your purpose. And I'm telling you, folks, you will get going in a direction that matters, and it will create amazing meaning in your life. And does that mean sometimes giving up friendships, geographically changing locations? Yeah, it could mean that. It could mean that. But that temporary comfort will not be what serves you in the long time, because you'll always wonder, what if I had actually done what people thought I could really do?
Yeah. And each of those moments gives us the opportunity, if we seek it, right? If we have eyes to see and ears to hear and a heart that's open, it gives us the inflection point to also reflect on who we are and how we are. So giving someone back to the community, saying, hey, listen, this isn't the calibration of team that we need, right? And you want it in this way. Also, should the cost of that is the requirement of us as leaders to look and say, who am I as a leader now, and what this moment requires? So am I being the leader that we need, right? Is it aligned? Or up to this point, have I produced the conditions so that these individuals are not the right fit, right?
What do you tell someone when I find out that I'm not being the leader we need? And quite frankly, I feel like because you and I know a lot of fabulous people, right? It's uncanny probably for us and I see, like, you know what? This situation needs a Malik Muhammad. It doesn't need a Trent Clark. Like, maybe I'm not the one being the leader we need, and maybe I'm not going to be that in the immediate future. I may try to get there, but today that's not who I am, and I gotta be okay with that, and figure out where do I belong in this mix. What would you tell someone who's in that spot?
Yeah, I mean, well, one, if you're already there, you've already done some good shadow work, right? And checking the ego and the id that's telling you that you are the most amazing thing, and it's really everybody else, right? Like, you've already done some good work to say, wow, like, they've got some skill set and hard work here that is what this moment needs, and I'm not it. And how do I stay connected to the work and not abandon my post, right? And invite some other folks in that could help. And so I think there's part of it is enlarging the circle, widen the circle, right? And you sort of mentioned this before around, having some people in your sphere, in your circle, that can give you that feedback, right?
Yeah.
And I think we all need an advisory board. We all need a set of people that can see things. I mean, there was an EOer who I can directly attribute to me being able to launch one of my businesses in the way that I did, because he allowed me to see something, right? Les Brown says it's hard to see the picture when you're inside the frame, right? And none of us know. It's really fascinating. None of us know what the back of our head looks like, right? We need somebody to tell us. And then I had one of my favorite rappers, Brother Ali. He said that we have never even seen our face. When we think of ourselves, right? We think of our face. Like, when I think of myself, I don't think of my hand. Like, that's Malik. No, I think of my face, right? Yeah. But the reality is that none of us have ever even seen our face, but with the assistance of something else, a mirror, a screen, another human being. But we ourselves cannot see our face. Right. And so we need other people in order to just help us in that process. So just as you're saying, how do I deal with the fact that I might not be what this moment needs? We need other people to even help us get there. And then we need other people to help us get through it. Yeah.
That's good. That's good, man. It's crazy. So good, man. So just kind of as we wrap things, man. First of all, Malik Muhammad. Malik, tell them where they can find you.
Oh, wow. So I think LinkedIn is always a great place to find me. Abdul Malik Muhammad in Delaware, or Aqaben on there. But then also drmalikspeaks.com is a website that we created to help folks see a little bit of the work that I'm doing too.
Yep. Love it. All right. Dr. Malik Speaks. Check that out. .com. drmalikspeaks.com. And today, just kind of wrap things up. I mean, we talk about change often comes, and change often comes out of, like you said, protest and party. I mean, like there's a factor there. I love the action formula for change. Connect plus challenge equals change. Ubuntu. I am because we are, like, building that belonging. One of the challenges I face with that is people are so critical of ritual. They're so critical of ritual, and I am too, by the way. I'm not on an island. Like, I'm guilty, right? And I'm like, why did they do that? Like, that's crazy. And so, and I had lots of questions at A&M about all the ritual, right? Because there's a lot.
Yeah.
And yet, what's it matter to me? Like, this is how they said. And I think people are quick to label, oh, cult, ooh, this or that. Like, oh, shut up. Like, there's just stuff. So I love that. The 4 R's of Ubuntu: rituals, roles, rhythms, and repair. I think that's absolutely. And I love this. Of course, Dr. Malik is the author of The Restorative Journey. We Can Save Our Boys of Color, and coming out in 2026, being the leader we need, which you look for that. It's going to be incredible. And then, of course, I love this quote. We train hard with our friends so our enemies can't hurt us.
There it is.
That's super powerful, right? Like, that's super powerful. Like, listen, effort always counts, right? We train hard and get ready and prepare. And preparation and repetition is confidence. That's what it is. Prep plus reps equals confidence.
Yeah.
It's what happens with folks. And we've seen it time and time again, folks. So if you want more confidence, this is where it's at. You got to go do the work. You got to go do the reps.
That's right.
So, Malik, let's finish with this. One thing, you see someone challenged today in this world, hurting. There's things out there that aren't going their way. They're not winning in their eyes. What do you tell them today?
Wow. What I would have told my 13-year-old self, if I could go back in time and just whisper a slight whisper in my ear that was loud enough for me to really mean it, is you are not alone. Right? That you have never been alone and never will be. That even when all else goes away, you've got you and the divine. You've got you and other people that are rooting for you that you don't even know. That you're not alone. And when we recognize that we're not alone, that we're always on a team, right? Then we have responsibility to that team and therefore to ourselves.
So good, man. That is so good. I'm telling you, like, I think, and that is, challenge feels lonely. Challenge, like when you're hurting and when things aren't going the direction. I can remember feeling that way. I had a horrible thing happen in my own business, an embezzlement with a partner, and I felt like all alone in the world. I thought, and my self-talk is terrible. Right? Dumbest person I know, all sorts of things in my self-talk. I'm like, I would never talk to my good friend Malik like this. I would never say this to him. Why would I ever say that to myself? And it felt so lonely until I sat in San Diego with a big conference of entrepreneurs, and 4 people were vulnerable enough to share their experiences, going, oh my gosh, I'm not on an island here. This is not. There are people around you ready to support. Don't go running away from them. Lean into them in the challenge is what I'm hearing. And of course, the divine. Don't ever run away from that. For goodness sake, don't ever drift. Don't ever drift.
Yeah. And there's a law of social proof, and it's something like this: is that in the absence of clarity, we seek a crowd. Right? Like when we don't know where to go, what to do, we find and reach out to others because we're built that way. We're built that way. So.
For everybody, thank you for joining us. Winners Find a Way every Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific, live on YouTube channel, Leadershipity YouTube, Facebook Live, and LinkedIn Live. You can, our podcast drops every Friday morning on every major network. You will want to listen to this a couple times. Malik Muhammad dropping dimes. I'm telling you right now. So until next time, we'll see you, and winners